What's up, Infected? Welcome to the Kwarenteen. Today I'm going to be teaching you how to play a game that's come to Kickstarter by the name of Alice in Shroomland. Now if that sounds familiar, I did an intro for this as well, and I also have a review that will be up in the corner as well if you're interested in that. But this video's sole purpose is to teach you how to play Alice in Shroomland. Now there are a few things I do need to mention before we continue with this video. Everything you do see in this video is of course a prototype copy of the game, and it is of course subject to change. And the other thing being, if you do like what you see here, I'll have a link up in the corner and down in the description that'll take you directly to the Kickstarter page when it's available, and it'll provide way more information than I could possibly cover in a single video. So this is everything that's going to come with Alice in Shroomland Spore Cultivation. You're going to have the different tripper kits that you can tell the difference by the color up in the top. Then you're going to have the Ouch deck, which contains all of the wounds for the game. You're going to have merchandise cards, the sativas, the indicas, the hybrids, the curses, the gear, the sinister cards, some of which will not be used depending on the game mode, which will make sense later. And then of course you have the different territories and locations that you're going to be using throughout the course of the game. Aside from that, each player is going to get two colored meeples, one so they can remember which color they are, and then the other goes out on the different territories to show where you are located in Shroomland. So the first thing you're going to do in Alice in Shroomland is you're going to pick a color. So in this case I've chosen red, so you're going to get two meeples of your chosen color. You're going to get 5 magical shroomlings, you're going to get 3 empty jars of weed, you're going to get an inner zen, an eat me, a twisted mind, and a meaning of life, all of which are easily recognizable by your chosen color in the top of the card as you see here. Now this is going to form your starting deck. So you're going to take this and you're going to give it a good shuffle, as you would any deck builder, and then now your deck is ready to go. Then the next thing you're going to do is you're going to decide whether or not you want to play as the sativas or the indikas. Now the indikas are basically the bad guys, the sativas are basically the good guys. Either way, your ultimate goal is the same, and that would be to defeat the final boss, which is the fun magical mushroom leader or the evil magical mushroom leader. So that's going to be your end goal regardless of who you play, but starting out, the sativas are generally easier to play than the indikas. Now, depending on who you're going to play, in this case we're going to choose the sativas. You're going to take them, you're going to give them a good shuffle, and then you're going to deal each player 2 of those cards, in which they're going to look at and they're going to decide which one of them they want to be their tripper. So in this case, I'm going to be the So-Stoned Caterpillar, is going to be my tripper. Then whoever you decide not to play, so in this case the indikas, you're going to take the leader and you're going to set it off to the side. Then in our example, you're going to set up the market deck, which is the remaining sativas, then the merchandise and the gear cards, and you would take these and shuffle them together to form one deck. Then you're going to create the dimensions deck by, in our example here, the indikas, the hybrids, and the curse cards together, and that is going to form the dimensions deck. Now of course you're going to make sure you shuffle both of these decks thoroughly and keep them separate. And if playing as the sativas, you're going to set the sinister cards aside. However, if you're going to play as the indikas, you would create the market deck by using the merchandise, the indikas, and the sinister cards, and you would create the dimension deck by using the sativas, the hybrids, and the curses. You, however, would not use the gear cards. Next, you're going to place the ominous dark forest on the far left side of your map, and then you're going to shuffle the rest of them up and flip half of them over, because these are double-sided with a different location on the other side. You're going to shuffle them up, flip half of them over, shuffle them again, and then deal them out as you see here. Once you've done that, you're going to look at the tripper that you and any other player have chosen, and if your tripper is on one of the locations as you see here, I would take one of my meeples and I would place it on that location to show that that is where the So-Stoned Caterpillar is. And then you will take the remaining one and you'll put it on your character card. That way everybody can clearly tell that that is where you are. Now one thing that does need to be noted, that there are 2 different ways to play. You can choose to be friends forever, which is a totally co-op version of the game, Or you could play Ruler of Shroomland, which I'll explain the differences at the end of this video. Otherwise, the setup for both modes of play are almost identical except for a few cards that are removed and a few tweaks to some of the rules. Then the next thing you're going to do is you will take your Dimension deck with the curses, the hybrids, and whoever you're deciding to fight. You're going to give them a good shuffle, and then that villain card that you put aside earlier, you're going to take it and place it on top of the Dimension deck, and you'll place it on the far right of your locations here. Then the next thing you're going to do is you're going to place the Market deck on the right hand side or wherever's convenient, and then you're going to draw the top 10 cards from the Market deck, creating the Market. And then lastly, you're going to give your Tripper kit here a good shuffle, place it face down next to your Tripper, and now you're ready to play Alice in Shroomland. The last thing I forgot to mention is you're going to take the Ouch deck and you will take that and set it off to the side because you will more than likely be using that a little bit later. So the first thing you're going to do on your turn is you're going to draw the top 6 cards from your Tripper kit. Then you're going to play all of the text on your cards. So for example, these just say Tripper kits, they don't really do much. However, your Inner Zen states that you may play your Tripper. And what that means is you would look at your Tripper here. If he's baked, if the top card of the Market deck has an odd buy amount, then I add it to my discard pile. So I can take a look at the Market deck, and if the buy value is odd, it would go to my discard pile. In this case, it's not, so it would go right back to the top of the deck. The next card would be the Meaning of Life. I may discard all ouches in my hand, or I make one teammate no longer unfortunately sober. Now let's speak about Unfortunately Sober. Unfortunately Sober is this game's version of basically dead. They are eliminated from the game. However, as you see here, there are ways to bring somebody back from being dead. So just because you're eliminated doesn't mean you're out of the game. You could be brought back if somebody draws their Meaning of Life. However, throughout the course of the game, you're going to be adding these Ouch cards to your discard pile. So if at any time during your turn, if you have 3 Ouch cards in your hand, you are immediately Unfortunately Sober. Then, the next thing that's going to happen is your shopping spree. So you're going to add up the mushroom symbols that you see in the top right corner of all of the cards in your hand. So I have a 3, I have a 1, another 1, and another 1, and then I have 2 that don't have any. So in this case, I have 6 shrooms. Now if we look at the makeup of a card here, we see that this card has a cost of 5, it's going to produce 1 shroom, and then it has an ability down here at the bottom. So, because I have 6 shrooms, it means I can buy up to 6 points worth of cards from the Market deck. However, another thing that you can do is if you have a face-up enemy, which will make a little more sense, anywhere on the battleground, I can pay 2 shrooms in order to flip that card face up. Another thing I can do is I could effectively buy the enemy card for its value here, and that sends them to the Unfortunately Sober pile. Now it also needs to be noted that if you have a face-up enemy on the same location that you have your meeple at, you get a +1 shroom bonus because you share the location with a face-up enemy. Now you could use that to purchase this enemy, or maybe uncover somebody else, or purchase cards from the market. So in this case, maybe I'll purchase the Sinister bottle of arsenic, and maybe I will buy the Butterfly Wings costume, because that is a total of 6. They're both going to be able to, later date, be able to give me 3 shrooms, so I'm going to take these and I'm going to add them to my discard pile. Next, all of the cards in your hand will be sent directly to your discard pile. If there are any curses on the Ominous Dark Forest, you're going to add them also to your discard pile. Then, any face-up Indinkus or Sativas, depending on who you're playing, that are in the Ominous Dark Forest will be added to the Unfortunately Sober pile immediately, but you will receive 1 Ouch card to your discard pile for every card that leaves the battlefield in this way. Then, any face-up or face-down enemies that are on the field will move 1 location to the right. Then you're going to take the top card of the Dimension deck and you will put it in the first location. Meaning, throughout the course of the game, this is going to be moving and you'll add another one. And this will move over, and we'll add another one, and so on and so forth. If an enemy reaches the ominous dark forest, they will immediately flip over and reveal themselves. However, it also needs to be mentioned that the mushroom leader, regardless of which team you're playing, will never be sent to the unfortunately sober pile because he's face up in the dark forest. He will stay there and continue to do a single damage to every single player until he is defeated. Then you're going to fill up the market back to 10 cards, as you see here. Lastly, if you added a Sativas, Hybrids, or Indinkas to your discard pile during your turn, you can instead choose to swap out your current Tripper for whichever one of those you added to your discard pile. So in this case, I put my Soulstone Caterpillar back into my discard pile, and I am now the Flightless Dodo. And then of course I would be able to look out here to see if the Flightless Dodo is anywhere on the field, which he is, so that is now my current location. Then the turn is going to pass to the player to the left, in which they will perform the same actions I just covered, including advancing the enemies as well. Gameplay is going to proceed like this until one player can gather enough shrooms to be able to purchase the final boss for 15 shrooms. Once that's happened, the game is immediately over, and depending on your game mode, all players win, or the player that destroyed the final boss is declared the victor. Now, as I mentioned earlier, there are two modes to play. You have Friends Forever, which can be played 1 to 4 players, and it is a completely co-op version of the game. If you play this, you're going to remove Tripping Buddy and Topsy Turvy. However, the second game mode is Ruler of Shroomland. Now this plays exactly the same, but it is a competitive version of the game, which plays 2 to 4 players, and it also can be played in teams. If you play this, you're going to remove Tripping Buddy unless you're playing on teams. Now I mentioned they both play identical, which isn't entirely accurate. Friends Forever will play exactly as I mentioned until the final boss is defeated. However, the Ruler of Shroomland will also play until the final boss is defeated, or until only one player remains. Because throughout the course of the game, if you're playing Ruler of Shroomland, anytime you or your team puts an enemy into the unfortunately sober pile, you would add 1 ouch card to a player of your choice's discard pile. And if you purchase any curses, instead of putting them into the unfortunately sober pile, you would choose to put it into any player's discard pile. Alright, and that is how you play Alice in Shroomland Spore Cultivation. I hope this video helped you learn how to play. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you do, give it a like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time in the Kwarenteen.